Okay, let's continue with this case again. Now we're going to evaluate site number 15 for immediate placement. A plan has already been included for me. I went ahead and used the hide implant tool right here on the bottom right hand side to go ahead and hide the implant. And what I'd like to do is briefly walk through my decision-making process for whether or not this is a good site for immediate placement. So our number one rule for immediate placement is going to be stability. Can we get stability at the time of placement? Okay, let's rule out, let's leave the infection and the sinus issues alone for the time being, and let's just focus solely on whether or not we can get stability. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and draw here the bone, and we can clearly see the bone goes like so. So there's our bone outline right there. Okay. Now I'd like to go ahead and draw out our tooth. And that'll be like so. So there's our tooth. So now what this leaves us is a good visual representation, and I'm going to use green right here to tell us where we have bone to create stability. And I know we're not going to use this bone over here that I'm coloring green right now, but just to give us an idea of that. So that's what we have left to be able to use for stability. So now my question is can we get an implant in that site? And the good news with guided surgery, we can get the implant where we intend it to go because of the precision of guided surgery. But the bigger question is, can we get stability with the implant? And a lot of that's going to be determined on the type of implant we're using. But more importantly in this case, I'm concerned about the quality of the bone right here. You can see right here, this bone looks this way, this bone looks not so good right here. My guess is this infection is in the furcation, leaving this bone, rendering this bone pretty much useless. The other thing that I wanted to point out here is there seems to be a communication right here. And in fact, as we go around, we can see right here that we've lost the definition of a border. So there's a good chance that this tooth has a significant infection, significant bone loss associated with it, and makes me very concerned. And you can see it right here. That's a pretty darn big infection. So my gut feeling right away is that this tooth is not a good candidate for immediate placement from a bone perspective. There are several other things that make me not be comfortable with putting the immediate placement in. One is we can see a significant sinus issue going on here, likely possibly related to this tooth. And so these are the things that I'm looking at. And then the other truth is to get a good size implant in here, to get ideal size implant, we'll probably need to do a little bit of a sinus lift. So now let's make a little bit of a different scenario. Let's pretend that there was bone there, there was no infection, this was just a failed root canal that was found right away, so there wasn't a chronic infection. And let's evaluate everything from this perspective. So what I would like to do again is go ahead and draw my bone, just like so. And so my first thing here is, actually this is probably more like the bone right there. So my first note in this particular plan is, by using this outline for the bone where the bone really is, the implant is not placed deep enough, or planned, not placed, but planned deep enough. So what I would recommend is typically going ahead and planning the implant to about the level of the furcation, because what we're going to know is that when the implant, the tooth is removed from this level of the bone right here, we're going to expect about 1 millimeter bone loss, okay? And maybe a little bit more in the posterior maxilla because it's not very good quality bone. So I want to have accommodation for that bone loss that's going to occur. So I would probably plan this implant to be about right here. The other thing is I would definitely go with a wider implant. And one of the negatives of the Camlog system is that it only goes to 4.3 in guided placement. And then I'm comfortable with 9 millimeters in length, but more ideal would probably be 10 to 11 millimeters in length. So now we've complicated the matter by needing to do a sinus lift at the same time to get ideal placement. So the next thing we'll look at is mesiodistal positioning is good. The only other thing I would mention here is I think the implant should probably be tilted a little bit more this way to get a more ideal occlusal plane. So, so that gives you an idea of the thought process on this particular implant. I hope that was helpful.